Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon if you're new around here, but for today's video I am joined by my husband Joel.
Hello.
And we're going to answer a few of your questions. I popped up on my Instagram just for you guys to ask us a few questions, and so we're going to jump straight into them. The first question that we got asked is, how did Joel propose? So we got married a year and a half ago, exactly, pretty much to the date.
Well,
17th of September.
Yeah. I got down on one knee and asked you if you would marry me. Is that what I said? I don't really remember what I said. So it was the 1st of November.
Remember what you said. Let's start the story from the beginning. So for kind of like 6 months or so, we have been chatting about possibly getting engaged, and Joel, being Joel, was giving like nothing away, and I didn't have a clue at all. Like genuinely, like I would ask him and be like, oh, like are we, you know, what, like what's the story? And he'd just be like, oh no, wait, you'll see. And that was all that. So it was just like a normal Saturday, and to be honest, there'd been a couple of times before that I thought you might have proposed. There was a couple of Saturdays in a row where I was like, so on this Saturday I was fully convinced he wasn't going to propose, and I literally remember I put on like the baggiest jumper and the baggiest jeans, didn't even have a coat on that matched, and we drove into Donegal, which was something that we did like quite regularly. So again,
well, you drove us because I had no car, because
your car just broke down. Yeah,
it just died, and Shannon.
It's a great time to get
Shannon
engaged.
hates driving, so I wore you down. I was joking, that wore you down, and you would say yes. I was joking.
So anyway, so we drove into Donegal. Honestly, nothing was really. You weren't weird. Like I kind of half expected. No, but you know, I kind of half expected to know, like for you to be kind of nervous or like to have some idea of what was coming, and I had no idea at all. And so Joel took us to this place that we went to quite regularly when we were dating.
Yeah. This fire's burning my back. Sorry. Keep going.
And you got down on one knee and asked me to marry him, and that was as simple and as sweet as it was.
And you said, quote, no. Yeah, Shan didn't, and she didn't initially say yes. She said no a couple of times.
Because I didn't realise it was happening.
And then it was all very exciting.
I know, and that's how we got engaged, and then we got married 9 months later on the 17th of September. That's really bad. We got married on the 17th of September.
Which was very exciting. Best day. Sorry, I got really emotional there.
It was pretty great. So the next question that we got asked is, how did you become a minimalist?
How did I become a minimalist? Well, Shannon just wore me down, and I don't have a say in anything that we own. So yeah, I have one pair of shoes. Well, no, I'm only joking. Minimalism, I suppose, firstly, I probably wouldn't describe, it's fun. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a minimalist. I really value simplicity. I really value minimalism and what that all stands for and represents. For me, I suppose it was a long process of like way before we were married, like maybe like way before we were married. I just had some friends who have decided to live a life of simplicity, and I watched the freedom and I watched the joy and the life and the simplicity. Like, I think our lives are so filled with complexity, and I suppose the minimalism, it began, I think, initially with me, with the clothing that I wore. Yeah. Which sounds really silly, but like if you've seen me, which you have, like I generally wear like black t-shirt and black jeans, and that probably is very boring, and I probably should expand that a little bit more. But that was kind of
jumper on right now.
I've slightly non-black jumper on right now. But that kind of began for me of removing something of, I know it sounds so silly, but it was something I didn't have to think about in the morning. I just removed a form of complexity in my life that was just slipstreamed what it meant to get ready. And then just slowly over time, I just started getting rid of stuff that I realized I didn't need. It was really interesting throughout the journey of simplifying, when you recognize how much of an attachment we form to things. Yeah. So yeah, I've honestly, it was a slow process, but I've just found that anytime we move closer to simplicity, life becomes simpler. but it becomes a little bit more joyful. And the thing that I love, like Shannon talks about this all the time, and I know you'll have heard it before, is that it's not removing stuff for the sake of removing it. It's making room for that which matters most. Yeah. And I think that has increasingly been what we've seen and experienced with minimalism and simplicity. It's not that we're getting rid of something, it's actually we're creating room for something better. And we've created more time, we've created more finance, we've got to give more, we've just got to live out of our values more by having less rubbish that we don't need.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. And I think for me, like Joel touched on something really important there, and that is we probably don't massively conform to the minimalist stereotype, if there is one. I think for the purpose of creating YouTube videos and creating content, minimalism is something that's massively searched, and something that I love to chat about on here is that everyone needs to find an expression of minimalism that works for them. So for us, like, our house might not look like the atypical like minimalist home, or we might not live minimalist lives, or we might not wear minimalist clothes or whatever, because it's kind of come to mean like a design or a brand or a
these are pretty like minimalist though. We don't even have sites. Sorry.
But like, yeah, so like we own stuff. I think that's important to say. And I think for me, the journey with minimalism, we kind of like went on it together, didn't we, when we were dating? I watched the minimalism documentary after Joel like had highly recommended it, and honestly was just really struck by like these two guys. The documentary follows these two guys who basically started mass minimalism as we know it.
Well, yeah, like redefined
minimalism for our generation.
Yeah, made it practicable. Yeah, it made it practicable today. Like,
so I think for me, like, I watched that documentary, and I think around that time,
it's not a word, is it? Practicable anyway. Sorry.
Around that time, I was kind of starting to just like
fall in love with me. Sorry.
Well, I was kind of like starting to, like, I was a teenager and I was going through those stages and kind of define more of who I was and what I cared about. And I think a couple of years prior to that, I had lost someone really important in my life. I'd lost my granny, who I grew up around and who I kind of like personally lived with for some time, and I was always in and out of her home, and kind of that meant that I had a lot of her stuff. Like, I inherited a lot of her items and her belongings, and I held on to loads of these things. Wow. And I think with the idea that by holding on to them, I was holding on to her, and kind of when that didn't materialize, or I didn't feel more fulfilled, or, you know, grief is funny and that's a whole different conversation, but, you know, having her stuff didn't make grief any easier. And I think I just watched these guys like live freely. Wow. Like, the minimalism documentary just like denotes and talks about their freedom and the joy that they found through simplicity. And so started to research more, started to give away more, started to try to be more generous with what I had. And I think we kind of did that together, which was really helpful. Yeah. Because I think if one of us had been attempting a life of simplicity and the other was like, no, that would have been tricky.
And I think that's funny, like, because it's definitely been that gradual experience, and it's one of, like, the goal, like, our goal is not to be minimalists, you know, the goal is not that, it's just we've found this expression that's pretty ancient. So we're Christians, and like the practice of simplicity is pretty ancient in the tradition that we're in. It's an ancient practice where people would just live with less so they could give more, and so they could be more with people, so they could be present more with people. And so, like, for us, it kind of intertwines with faith and freedom and joy and simplicity and life and
lifestyle.
People.
Like, it is a lifestyle that we've chosen. But yeah, so I suppose that's probably a little bit of how we've discovered minimalism, how we chose to become people of simplicity.
People of POS.
I don't know, whatever words you want to define it as. Like, I use minimalism for the purpose of YouTube because it's the most helpful and the most searched. But yeah, so that's probably the answer to that question. The next question, did you see that I just totally caught my phone?
Do you know what you should do? You should cut my hair as a video.
Sounds good. Next question. Tips on moving away from home.
Simplicity. Minimalism. Honestly, it was so easy. I think I had like 3 boxes or something.
Okay, Joel, I don't know if
it's now snowing outside.
I don't know if this question is like the practicalities of how you move out of your house. So I think for me, when I like moved away from home, I think it's really important to have something that you're moving for. So like something that you're looking forward to, something that you're hoping. You're a big one. Do you know, like something that you're looking forward to? I think another thing that's really helpful is to like find your people. Like, try really quickly to meet as many new people and to build as many relationships as you can. And that might not be with lots of people, but I think you first have to meet groups of people to discover who your people are, to then be able to develop like deep friendships. Because I honestly think the things that really do make you feel settled are when you feel like, first of all, you can like walk home. You know how to get home. You like know what your street looks like. But then second of all, the people that you know are in your world and are becoming friends. But I think these things are really helpful when you're moving.
So you're talking about the things that change. So like for me, it's funny, I didn't think about this until you started speaking, but I like find the things that don't change. So like for me, one of the big things in moving was like my morning routine didn't change. So like a tip in moving was that every morning I would get up and I would read and I would pray and I would like there would be these things, make coffee, brush my teeth at that time, get a shower at that time, and there was this like morning rhythm or this morning routine that didn't change. And in the midst of like no matter where I am, no matter where I go, every single morning pretty much looks the same, like whether we're on holiday, whether we're traveling, whether we're here, whether we're isolated, not isolated, lockdown or not lockdown, my morning never changes. And so that was something that I found really helpful. Find the things that don't change amidst the change,
really good.
because
Like,
the things
create
that
some stability for yourself. No, it's really
that
good.
like guide rail, do you know, that kind of holds you through. So I would say if life is changing a lot right now, or you're in the brink of change or on the cusp of change, it's like, what are the things that won't change?
Like, that's good.
Yeah,
that's really good. The next question is
where I don't answer the question.
It's your greatest
Tips
skill.
for change: find something that doesn't change. Sorry.
So the final question is
Sorry. It's like a game show.
what is the best...
My back is roasting. Sorry.
Joel, stop interrupting me. The final question is, what is the best and worst thing about being married young?
Wow.
I have just sprung these questions on Joel.
What go you first. What would your...
So I think the best... So I suppose there's like two questions there, isn't there? Because it's like, what's the best thing about being married, and then what's the best thing about being married young? But
never thought on that.
Yeah,
we have our youth. Sorry. I don't know.
That's random. I think for me, like, one of the best things about being married young is that like we found our family. Do you know? Like, so, you know, we were really privileged that we started going out really young. Like I was 14 and you were 17, and we have just stayed together.
Yeah.
Like in the best sense. And we got it. Not we're just lost
We just
with each other.
decided.
No, but like, do you know, like at one point we did just decide, but anyway, that's a whole other conversation about relationships. But anyway, and I think there is something really lovely about finding your person young and like creating a family. And you know, like, we really did, like, as corny as it sounds, we have grown up together and we will continue to grow up together.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing for me about being married young is that, but it's also like, I think the best thing about being married young too is like the stability, and you're amazing. Like, I love being married to you, so I think that's probably the best thing about being married young. And I know, like, there's lots of conversations about when you should get married and what age you should get married, and lots of people have lots of different ideas and lots of different wisdom on it, do you know, and we were really privileged that we had people in our life who really supported us getting married young, and then we also had people in our life who questioned us getting married young, and both were important. Like, you know, we needed both. In the end, everyone was totally supportive, but I think it's really important to have people in your life that will ask you those questions and who like support you in your relationship, because I know sometimes people get married young and it doesn't work out the same way, and that can be for a variety of reasons that I don't want to talk about, because we don't know everybody's situation, but for us, being married young has been incredible. And I think the hardest thing about like being married young is, I think when you get married you discover, I know people talk about this when they have kids, so we're like not there yet, but like, you really do discover like the worst bits about yourself. Like,
you don't really have that many bad bits,
Joel, but like, I just mean, like, you discover how selfish you are and how you want your own way, and you know, I think there is just so many things that you just really do have to learn to become more self-aware. And I think that kind of surprised me more than anything. But I think that was some of the hardest bits, was that actually becoming more self-aware of the things in me that were really not that nice. And then obviously as well too, you say no to certain things because you've chosen to be married, you know, so like, I'm not going to fly halfway across the world without you tomorrow. do you know, we're not going to do that. But yeah, I don't know, they're probably some of my thoughts. I don't know
if I have like two distinct answers, like here's the best and here's the, what was the
best and the worst?
I would love my answer, and the one honestly has been the single best decision I've ever made. Like, without a doubt. Like, and I think it was funny, like, we were actually just chatting about this yesterday. Like, I didn't know that this was coming, but it just how amazing it is to have your team, like, as we approach life and as we look at life together. And like, and that's through the whole answer, and I want it. Like, I don't know if there is a worst part, because I think, because you're right, like, before we got married, we had some incredible people ask us some really difficult questions about getting married. And do you know, anytime, it's a bit like the minimalism thing or the simplicity thing, like, anytime we say yes to anything, right, whether that's buying something, whether that's a person, whether that's our time, whether that's clothing, we are instantly saying no to a whole bunch of other things. So when I put on a certain t-shirt, I'm instantly saying no to wearing all the other t-shirts that are in my, or you could try and layer up a bit weird. Do you know, like that? Can't wait to be at that. That's a terrible image for marriage, but
when you put me on.
No, but like, what you say yes to, you're aware that you're saying no to a whole lot. The yes is so good that the no's become like like, honestly, like, and we've been married now, what, year and a half? Like, the no's are just irrelevant. Like, honestly, like, I don't. Yeah, there's times and there's moments where it's like, oh, we could go do, oh, we can't. And it's just because, you know, it's like, it's not practical. We can't, like, both of us just up and leave, or to go visit something or someone, or, but honestly, like, when, at the end of the day, when I look you in the eyes and it's like, oh my goodness, like, this is class. Like, just to have your best friend. And no, it really is. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of marriage, and a huge fan of, and I'm not saying everyone should get married young. I think if you are, like, get people to ask you really difficult questions, and because it isn't for everyone, like, being married young. But for us, for me, I can speak for me, like, it's literally been the best, and it's been, and I use this word carefully, but it's been easy. Like, there has been an ease to it, because, like, we asked those hard questions before we got married, and it's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's important just to say that, like, that answer is coming from a place that when Joel and I got married, we chose that we share everything. So, like, we have joint bank accounts. So like, everything
share
we have.
shoes, clothes. Apparently, sorry.
Can you imagine Joel in this t-shirt?
You wear my clothes all the time. You wear my shirt right now.
That is the way that we've chosen to do marriage, and I think that's also really important to say. Is obviously every marriage is different. Everybody personally chooses to live life married differently as well as in singleness. So that is just from our perspective as two Christians who've chosen to get married at 21 and 24. But yeah, we wouldn't do anything differently. But if you would ever love us to do a whole Q&A on marriage and all of that, then you can just leave your questions down below or send me a wee message on Instagram, and it would be really cool to maybe put together a little Q&A on marriage and being married young and what that's like, obviously from our perspective. But guys, that's the end of the Q&A. I hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in another video.
Bye. Shannon said that I am literally creating so much editing. Right, to answer the question.
No, we're starting from the start.
Hi, my name's Joel. I'm joking. I have a question. Should I be looking here or here?
At the camera.
Okay, sorry. Here?
Yeah.
Cut that out.
I will cut that out.
Okay. Hello.
It's not funny. Let's go again.
No, it's funny. Just keep going. Just keep rolling. One take. I'm the one take wonder.
No, you're not.